Hello, everybody, and welcome to the All About the Birds Fantasy and Gambling Show. We're live, as always, on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, joined by our experts, Jason Sullivan, Josh Gamble. I am Phil Stiefel. Welcome to the show, everybody. Make sure you share the show, you retweet the show, you bring all your comments, fantasy questions, daily fantasy, season long, your stardom, sit-em questions, any gambling questions for Josh. You know, you name it, you ask the question, and we'll bring it for you. Thanks for checking in, Johnny. Everybody, thanks for tuning in to our Tuesday night show. When we did our Masters preview show, we had a lot of fun. I don't know about the watchers out there. I know some of the picks we've made are looking really good after one round, so we're really excited about that. Guys, how you guys feeling about your Masters pick and leading into this weekend in fantasy and gambling?
Feeling damn good. How about that intro video, too?
Again, Johnny Uleka.
Johnny Uleka coming through.
The dude has one good talent, Johnny. It's making great videos, especially the pump-up videos.
He might have a second career in that, man. Seriously, he's good.
Exactly. I mean, he does really good work with that stuff. So I got 2 more shares to try to get this out there to the world here. Trying. My phone sucks today, everybody. Hang in there. I got 1 more.
Josh, how you feeling tonight?
Yeah, there you go. Take over for a second, Jason.
I'm feeling really good. I mean, I got names all over the leaderboard right now. So I'm really feeling good. Hopefully, you know, the night's rest and you know, whatever doesn't screw up Justin Thomas on the first round leader. But you know, he's looking pretty good. Everybody's looking pretty good. I'm feeling real good.
He's got hoes in different area codes, baby.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. All right, we got to stop the golf. Right. I got too many comments, you know, brought my way in the last 2 days. Why are we talking golf on a football, you know, podcast network? So let's dive into the fantasy football, as we always do. Jason, what is your top stack, as we asked us the first question of the week always? Yep, top stack of the week.
I am going with my man, Justin Herbert. I'm stacking the Chargers against the Miami Dolphins, game total of 48.5 points. Justin Herbert, 6,600, still too cheap. He's a guaranteed 24, 25 points every week. The guy is just awesome. He's averaging 26.9 fantasy points a game with a low of 20. So pretty solid performance for the rookie. He's thrown for at least 264 yards in every game as well, too. So he has been on fire. I'm stacking him with his favorite option, Keenan Allen, no surprise. 13, 12, and 11 targets in the last 3 weeks with at least 9 catches each week. So the dude he's finally priced up in the 7,000s, which is where he should be. And I'm going to come back on the other side with Tua's favorite target of Devontae Parker, 5,000. It's too cheap for him, especially with Pierre Williams going out today. He's definitely too cheap. I think 7 targets last game with his first game with Tua, and I like him. His targets to go up quite a bit. That leaves you with 52-17 left per player to build the rest of your lineup. I actually, to be honest with you, if I was going to pick a second quarterback, would probably come back with Tua in the same stack, just the other way.
So you're buying too, because I was going to ask you about that because the Chargers Miami game was one of the games I had circled to ask you about, and to what they put up 34 points against the Cardinals last week. The week before Miami, it was mostly their defense scoring, and Tua didn't look good. So you're buying one solid game from Tua that he is a viable fantasy option at this point.
Yeah, you know what? I think the knock in the first week was that he didn't have to do much because obviously the defense scored 2 touchdowns, so you didn't have to worry about too much. But he looked good last week. I think he was 20 of 28, 260 or something around there. And the biggest thing was his yards per attempt was almost 9 yards per attempt, which is up towards the top in the league right now. So he looked accurate, he looked good, and he looked mobile. Putting 35 yards up on the ground, that helps the cause too. If he can get in the end zone on one of those running plays, that would be huge. So I like him. 5,500 is way too cheap for him.
And the Chargers defense is not. I mean, they've given up a lot of high fantasy point totals, even in comebacks and in garbage time. So that's a good one. Okay, what would be your next best stack, and then I'll get into some of the other games I've gotten written down here.
Yeah, for sure. This next one's going to be a skinny stack, only one team. I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson. He has been so solid recently, especially in games where he's the underdog. I really like him a lot. He's a slight underdog in this game against Cleveland. So I like him a lot. You can bring him back with Fuller or Cooks or both, to be honest with you. Fuller 6,700 seems like a really good price for him. Cooks is 5,600, which seems way too low for him as well. If you use Fuller, you're going to leave yourself with 5,200. So I love that stack. I like it in cash and in GPPs actually, because Watson's been a good, solid, high floor kind of guy for me.
It's actually interesting because I actually wrote that game down, but on the other end of the equation with Baker Mayfield. I know still no OBJ. You got the question whether Chubb's going to be active. What's that going to do to Hunt's fantasy value? But the Houston D has given up a lot of points. And I believe I mentioned it on this show last week that even Lutton, the quarterback from Jacksonville, might have been a sneaky play last week because, the Houston defense gives up a lot of passing yards. They give up a lot of passing touchdowns. And Lutton had 25.5 points on DraftKings last week, threw for 304 yards. The other end of that stack is Cleveland, anybody that you would look at this week, or is Cleveland too much of a question mark to even think about them?
No, I think you can go with it. The only thing that worries me about Cleveland is who to stack with Mayfield. Do you go Landry? That seems like the obvious one. He's not really done all that much in fantasy this year. I know his price is low. It's in the 5 still, but he hasn't done enough to really consistently count on him. I don't think his upside's big enough, which makes me a little bit nervous. But I do like Cleveland at home, and you're right. Houston's defense is god-awful. So I like some of those other options too. It'll be interesting.
I joked about Lutton last week, thinking that was just kind of semi-sarcastic. And then I went back and looked at his stats. I was like, maybe it wasn't that stupid of an idea in the first place and all. So
no, he seemed like a good quarterback too. From what I saw, I didn't see a lot of it, obviously, but from what I saw, he's got a good arm on him. Houston's defense is god awful. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, Houston's defense is awful, and that's the only thing that made me look towards that game in Cleveland and all. Again, I try to stay away from the Cleveland game just because you just don't know what Baker is each week. He
never seems to go well for me either.
No, I agree with you. All right, so then looking at other games, as I always do, I always write down the top or the bottom 4 value defenses and look at them. And before I get the bottom 2 defenses are the Jaguars and the Bengals, and we'll get into them in a second. But the 3rd worst defense ranked and the 4th worst defense ranked are actually going up against each other, the Rams in Seattle. That game, in my opinion, has a potential to be super, super high scoring. A lot of fantasy points potential there. But sometimes when I feel like a game is going to be that high scoring, the complete opposite happens. So as a game that I'm eyeing up in fantasy, what are your thoughts on that game, Rams versus Seahawks?
Yeah, I think that's a great game too. I think you can stack it either way. Obviously, the receivers for Seattle are awesome, but the Rams receivers are pretty good too. You can go with Kupp or Woods. Both of those guys are pretty dang solid too. I also like Josh Reynolds at a low price. I think he's like 3,400 this week. He's their deep threat for the Rams, so I like that a lot. I might even try to be sneaky in that game and go with Goff. I know that he's really boomer bust. Like he could get you 8 points or he could get you 30. But I might go the other way, just at low ownership and take Goff this week and then come back with probably Metcalf on the other side.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, and again, with Seattle, we just don't know which wide receiver is going to be the one that has the big game. But again, I mean, I don't know. When I see the 2 worst ranked defenses or 2 of the 4 worst defenses, there's just, there's got to be so much potential there. So, I mean, what defense should I start in DraftKings this week? I don't know. Again, we've talked about it. Defenses can be the difference between a big cash and a small cash. Are there any defenses that stand out to you? Answer our boy Ryan's question here.
You're going to hate this answer. My first answer, that a really low-owned defense, the New York Giants, they have been sneaky good on defense.
They have, actually. They've scored a lot of fantasy points.
Yeah, I think just for the price alone, I like to spend very limited. I never pay up at 4 defenses ever. But I like that defense quite a bit. Looking at the other ones, let me see real quick.
Don't get many defense questions here, so you're not prepared for Ryan's question there.
And you know what, too? I think that Miami's defense is always in play. I know I like Herbert, so that kind of goes against my point. But it doesn't really matter how much the other team scores against you in fantasy. You're looking for turnovers. You're looking for special teams touchdowns. And Miami's defense is kind of sneaky good, too. They're another one that's like that, and they're capable of taking a turnover to the house, too. So I don't necessarily care at all how many points you give up. I just want to see that you put pressure on the quarterback and you have the big play potential on your defense.
Gotcha. All right, so let's
pay down at defense. That's my advice to everyone. Don't pay up ever.
Yeah, no. I always look for the bottom 10 and just try to find the gem, there. So, the worst 2 defenses on DraftKings this week are the Jaguars going up against Green Bay and the Bengals going up against Pittsburgh. And the Bengals Pittsburgh game kind of confuses me or intrigues me because it's one of my games I'm looking at on the gambling side, and we'll get into that with Josh later. But do either of those 2 teams, the Green Bay Packers or Pittsburgh, does one stick out as a better place to look for fantasy options versus the other, or are they both slam dunk kind of plays this week?
Well, I do like both, but I think the Packers is a better play. Obviously, Devontae Adams is doing something that receivers have never done before in a season, so obviously him and Rodgers is a good way to go. Allen Lazard is one of my sleeper plays of the week this week if he comes back off IR.
Is he coming? I mean, he's been on my IR on my season-long team the entire season.
He's on the IR right now, but they said that they think he's going to play this week. So he's only 4,000. So I think you could do a Rodgers, Adams, and then Lazard stack, and that pays gets your money down a little bit, which is good. So yeah, I like that. Pittsburgh. The only thing with Pittsburgh is it's hard to figure out which receiver is going to go off. They have 3 good receivers, and it seems like every given week I pick the wrong one. So. Just ask Johnny which Pittsburgh receiver is going to go off, and he'll pick the right one for you.
Okay. Yeah, because he knows so much about that. So, all right. So let's get into the Eagles game then, because we're back this week with the Eagles. They're playing the Giants. A lot of talk that Alshon Jeffries is going to be back for the Eagles. I don't think he necessarily is a fantasy relevant player this week because he's missed so much time. But Miles Sanders is going to be back. Dallas Goedert was back the last game, but really was more of a decoy and all. Johnny's checking in James Washington. That's his guy this week. Oh, that was the wrong person. There it is, James Washington. JK, but I don't think so. I think he's really being serious there. So Miles Sanders back. Alshon Jeffries back. Goddard's been back for 2 weeks. Are any of the Eagles, I know you said you like the Giants defense, but are any of the Eagles viable options in season long or daily fantasy this week? With Alshon Jeffries being back, that's what scares me. Whose targets is he going to take away? So any thoughts on the Eagles this week?
Yeah, I actually thought about making that one of my stacks, believe it or not, before I said the Giants. Yeah.
Okay.
With Carson Wentz and Fulgham, and then coming back on the other side with Evan Ingram. Ingram's been really good as a tight end for them. Obviously, Danny Dimes is pretty terrible, but he targets Ingram quite a bit, like 10 times a game. So, yeah, I don't hate that as a really low. Obviously, that's a bigger DPP contest.
So, I'm sorry, who you're right? Wentz, who, and Ingram?
Wentz and Fulgham, and then Ingram is coming back on the other way. I also like Miles Sanders. Basically, I just wanted to make sure that he was going to play for sure.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody that is questionable played in practice in full today. They all practiced in full or limited yesterday. All full participants today. So it seems like pretty much all of the Eagles' offensive weapons, other than Zach Ertz, are going to be back. So, and their offensive line, they're getting Isaac Seumalo back, who has been missing since before the season started. So, he's a lock at guard for the Eagles, so that should help shore up some of the offensive line protection issues as well.
And what's funny about this week is running back seems like it's really, really shallow this week. So if Sanders plays, that's great news, and I think that's going to be a really good play for me. The top-end guys for running backs I feel like are really strong in Aaron Jones and Kamara. But then beyond that, I don't even know where I would go. That's the scariest part about a lot of them. So I was looking for another top-end type guy. I think Sanders could be that guy. Speaking along those same lines, though, I do have one absolute play that should be probably in every one of your lineups. Mike Davis is 4,000 even this week. McCaffrey's out, or going to most likely be out, and Davis is at almost the minimum for running backs, or it might be the minimum for running backs. So he should be in pretty much every one of your lineups this week.
Mike Davis, Miles Sanders running back tandem should be good. All right. So we do have a fantasy question. He's got a flex: Claypool, Jefferson, Boyd, Williams, or Fulgham. It's a PPR league. That's a lot of choices for one flex spot there.
I was gonna say those receivers are good.
I mean, I'm going Fulgham because Fulgham has obviously developed quite the rapport with Carson Wentz. Claypool, it's every other week. Jefferson, they're going up against the Bears defense. Boyd, you're going up against Pittsburgh. I don't know. I'd probably be going Fulgham there. What do you think?
See, I would go Fulgham too. If I was playing in a season long, if I was going in GPP, I would go Jefferson. I think the upside's a little bit bigger.
Okay. All right. And Johnny's now saying James Robinson versus Green Bay defense is his play of the week. I don't know.
The thing I've learned is whenever he tells me a play of the week, they always go off. So I'm playing James Robinson.
He never even played daily fantasy before this year. I had him playing like free rolls to start the year because he never did it before. So all of a sudden, this guy's got all this fantasy knowledge. Maybe he should be sitting in one of these chairs.
He's good at the sleeper picks. He always picks the guy that nobody else will pick, and the guy ends up doing well. So, boom, I'll take it.
All right, so I got another guy that I'm curious if he's a boom or bust from last week. Going up against the Saints from the 49ers. They are riddled with injuries. Ricky James, he's 4K on DraftKings. He had 9 catches, 184 yards and a touchdown last week, and he's basically their number 1 wide receiver this week again.
You pretty much have to play him, right? I mean, especially at 4K.
I mean, if you're going to play Miles Sanders and Mike Davis, you might as well play Ricky James too, right?
Yeah, it's like it's almost a free spot. I love plays like that. If a guy's going to get 9 targets and he's 4K, I don't care what team he plays on.
He had like 12 or 13 targets last week.
I'm sorry, 9 catches.
Like 9 catches.
Right.
Adam checking in. Yes, we just went over it a few minutes ago. If Miles Sanders is playing, it's a definite play this week. Don't definitely get the rock a lot, especially in daily fantasy, Adam. Season long, it depends on your other options. But yeah, he's a good play. And Johnny knows every kid's college. James Robinson is a Middle Tennessee State product, probably. That's why he's handling all the draft content and coverage for the team.
You know what school I don't want to talk about? Middle Tennessee State. I can tell you that right now.
Why? What's wrong with Middle Tennessee State?
They beat Michigan State in basketball a couple years ago in the tournament.
That's a big sore spot for him.
Yeah, that one hurts.
All right. Do you have any other fantasy, plays or topics you want to cover this week real quick?
I do have one more free spot. Duke Johnson, 5,200 this week.
Is David Johnson out for sure?
He's out with a concussion. So, 5,200 for a guy that played 89% of the snaps last week. I think that's especially in cash, that's a
I got a lot of low buys here. I'm going to be able to stack the number 1 tight end and quarterback here.
That's what I love.
I got Miles Sanders. I got Mike Davis. I got Duke Johnson. I got, Ricky James, all these guys that are super cheap. Man, I'm going to be able to stack some high-end guys here.
See, then you can come out and play Rodgers and Adams and all these, Keenan Allen.
You got to have those good plays there.
Exactly.
All right. So let's transition right from that into the gambling aspect. I know I got Josh's locks of the week written down here and all, but because we talked about it just a few seconds ago, I do want to touch first on that Pittsburgh Bengals game. For some reason, based off of how bad Pittsburgh played against Dallas, I think that's why the line is where it is at 6.5 points. Is that what it was? Yeah, 6.5 points. And it almost shouts that I should be playing the Bengals, I think. Just because I've been trashing the Steelers all year and saying they weren't as good as their record said they were. They played that stinker against the Cowboys. Where are your thoughts lying on that Steelers-Bengals game?
Yeah, I mean, so regardless of how the Steelers played last week, Cincinnati, they've been really good at covering spreads all season long. For whatever reason, they keep games close. I'm trying to pull up right now what the current line is. Last I saw it was a touchdown.
When I wrote it down this morning, it was 6.5 point favorite for the Steelers, and it was 45.5 points the over.
Yeah, so honestly, as long as it stays in that range, that's probably a game that I like the Bengals. And I'm looking at it right now, both cash and tickets, both overwhelmingly like the Bengals as well, which is a decent sign. If just the public was on the Bengals and the cash wasn't quite there, I might fade that pick, but since both of them are there, it makes me a little bit more comfortable going with that one.
Okay. All right. So let's get into some of your picks of the week. Well, he put it up here. That was actually the game I was going to get to. That was because that's one of my locks this week that I had on the All About the Birds. On FanDuel, Jacksonville is a 13.5-point dog to the Packers. The over-under is listed at 50. I love the Packers. I think they're rolling right now. And even I hate playing 2-touchdown score, type games. But I love the Packers at 13.5, even though it killed me with Pittsburgh playing that big of a line last week.
Yeah, I mean that's one of my games this week that I've targeted is Packers minus 13.5. Actually, on my book, it's actually gone down a half a point to 13, which doesn't really mean a whole lot. So that's one of the games that I'm really targeting this week. I know that Lutton looked good last week, but he was playing against the Texans, and the Texans can't stop anybody. This is Nick Mullen 2.0 from earlier in the season, where he came out in his first game, threw for 300 yards and 2 or 3 scores, whatever it was, and then the next game, he stunk. You know what I mean? And by no means do the Packers have a good defense. That's not what I'm saying, but I just the Packers are going to score a ton of points. And I just don't see the Jaguars being able to keep up with that.
I mean, I almost, to an extent, like the Packers and the over in the game, because the Packers are going to put up 35, 40 points against Jacksonville's defense. So that does not leave much for Jacksonville to have to score to hit that over. I mean, I don't know. That's one of those 2 or 3 games that I see being complete shootouts this week.
Yeah, I mean that's really the key. The Packers are certainly going to score. It's just whether or not the Jaguars can score enough to push that game to the over. To me, it's more of a coin flip. But that's that one's really tough for me. And for what it's worth, there's a ton of cash on the under right now. People are pretty bearish on the Jaguars, and the Packers defense is it's not very good. So you would have to think that James Robinson would be able to affect that game a little bit. You would think that as long as Lutton plays okay, I think the over has a pretty decent chance of hitting.
It almost seemed too low, the over at 50 points to an extent to me.
Yeah, especially when you factor in, like you said, I mean, the Packers are good for 30 something, in my opinion. And with as bad as the Jaguars defense is, I mean, they could score 40 points. You don't know. So me, I don't like taking unders.
No, you're an over guy. So the last time you took an under, you broke all our hearts.
Exactly.
We always get a bunch of people that like and heart our show. We've got somebody with a sad face on our show, and Ashley Jamerson. I'm guessing she bet something like that, and that's probably why she put a sad face and lost. Or she either bet the under the one time you took the under, or she took Jason's Raiders stack a few weeks ago and got crushed. So it was one or the other that caused that sad face.
First off, she's probably still sad about the Clemson game because her and her husband are big Clemson Tigers fans. So they're probably sad about that.
They are, okay.
Correct.
It's not a random watcher. It's a friend watching it all right, so you mentioned Nick Mullins. That's one of your other games this week, the 49ers and the Saints. So you've got the Saints as your pick. FanDuel's got them at 9.5. I don't know what your sportsbook has them at. And it's a 48.5 over-under line. Why do you like that game so much with the Saints?
Yeah, I've got them at 9 right now. And to be honest with you, now that Garoppolo is hurt again, I'm kind of reverting this team back to the way that they were earlier in the season when they looked terrible against everybody. It's tough because the Saints looked so good last week, and obviously they're not that good. But it's just the 49ers, I think, are going to have a tough time winning games. I think they're going to have a tough time covering the spread. Without Garoppolo in there and just all the other injuries that they have. I mean, every week, they've got somebody new getting hurt, somebody comes back, and then they get hurt again. You know what I mean? So, I really like the Saints in that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the Saints, I just real quick back to the fantasy aspect. Michael Thomas, he's back. He's had a full game under his belt. Are you back to thinking Michael Thomas is a top wide receiver again, Jason? Or does he still need a few more weeks to really get that rhythm back with Drew Brees?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I was kind of debating on that too. I was looking at kind of like preliminary lineups today, and I was plugging him into some, but is he worth 7,400? I don't know. I think I'd rather play Keenan Allen at this point for 7,100. So I would say
I still don't buy Drew Brees. That's my problem. I know Drew Brees and the Saints are 6-2 or whatever they are. They just crushed the Buccaneers last week, but I don't buy Drew Brees as a big viable candidate anymore.
That's what I worry about too. Is he going to consistently produce like he did last year? Probably not.
Yeah. Exactly. So we got Titans up 7-3 early. Thanks, Adam, for checking in with the score. Much appreciated. That's awesome to know. All right, so we went with the Saints game. We're just going to piggyback to your over for the week because of the Saints beating the Bucs. You got the over in the Buccaneers-Panthers game. Buccaneers are 5.5-point favorites. I got them listed at 50.5 as the over. You like a lot of points being scored in that game.
Yeah, I do. The Panthers defense is not great. I think people think that their defense may be a little bit better than it actually is. I think you can actually make the same argument for the Buccaneers. Everybody looks at the Buccaneers as having a top defense. I'm not seeing it. It's one of those games where Tom Brady's going to be mad. He's going to be mad about what happened last week. They're going to come out. The Buccaneers are going to get their points. And the Panthers are scoring points on people, with or without McCaffrey. They've proven all season they don't need McCaffrey to score points. So that's just a game that I thought the over-under was a little low on that one. So that's something that I'm looking to exploit this week.
I would love somebody watching the show that has more time than us to do the research. I would love to know Brady's statistics the week after not scoring a touchdown. Yeah, just mentally, I'm picturing that he's got insane numbers and an insane record the week after having a week like he just had last week on Monday Night Football.
Right.
I just can't imagine him coming out and having two stinkers in a row like that.
No.
He's got to have great numbers there. So, yeah. So the other over-under game, it's a game actually I was looking at. I just don't like the line because it's too close, and I just really don't know about either of these teams. Is the Bills-Cardinals. You got the over in that game. It's an even higher over-under at 56.5. Cardinals are a 2.5-point favorite. Obviously you like the over there. Is there any idea what either of these teams are, whether they're going to win or – is there any way you can judge who's going to win that game?
No.
That's where I stand on it too. I mean, I have no idea who the Bills are.
Yeah.
I have no idea who the Cardinals are. I know they've both played really well, Josh Allen and Kyler Murray, but they've also had some really bad moments this year. And I told everyone to pump the brakes on the MVP talk for the two of them. And both of them have had some really, really good weeks. But honestly, I've never been so confused on a 5-3 and 6-2 team.
Right. No, I agree with that for sure. And that's why, that's the type of game where, spread or money line or anything like that, I'm going to stay away from that completely. And you're looking, cash tickets, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you're seeing a big split, on the spread. So, that's not something that I just don't know what to expect out of these teams. What I do know to expect out of these teams, that both of these defenses are bad. Both of these defenses are bad, and both of these offenses are I would call above average. I would even say that, both offenses are really, really good when they're clicking. They just don't necessarily completely click every week. So, this is more, and I know that 56.5 is a big number. But this is just a game where I'm really trying to exploit two bad defenses going up against each other, and two quarterbacks that are dynamic quarterbacks, two guys that, this game, to me at least, just has all the makings of a shootout.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with you on that one. But so you're so convinced that you can't bet the line on either of those teams. But then another game that is just as confusing to me, but you picked on a low line, it's the Seattle Rams game. See, the Seattle Rams game confused me just as much as the Bills-Cardinals game, because Seattle has just been awful two of the last three games.
Yep.
And the Rams, I don't know, sometimes they put up 35, 40 points, and other weeks they're struggling to score against the Giants, So what's your thought process on picking Seattle? So he's got Seattle. I have him at +2, and 54.5 is the over and under on that game.
So I mean, my thought process is actually very simple. There's not really a whole lot of analytics that go into this. If you're going to give me Russell Wilson in that offense, any number of points, I don't care what it is, I'm going to take it. More times than not, that's going to pay out. If you're going to give me who I think is probably going to win the MVP, you give me points, I don't care who they're playing. And it just so happens that this week they're playing the Rams, who I am not personally very high on. Even when they've won and they've won by a good margin, they just really haven't, they haven't blown me away. Where the Seahawks, when they've won their games big or, whatever, you look at this team and you're like, holy crap, who's going to stop these guys kind of thing. Right. So you give me Russell Wilson and the points, I'm taking it every time. Okay.
That's a fair enough, description there. No, I don't know. What they've lost two of the last three games. They're 5-3 now, Seattle, or 6-2 or whatever it is. They're not gonna fall to 5-4, or they're not that bad of a team. They're much better than their record says they are.
Right.
And Russell Wilson's not going to continue to turn the ball over like he has, a couple times lately. So yeah, okay, that's fine. So let's dive into the Eagles game. The spread on the Eagles game last I looked was 3.5 points. Eagles favored. 44.5 over under. Obviously, it's not one of your plays this week, but for Eagles fans that are watching, any thoughts on the game, what the line tells you, anything of that nature?
Yeah, so, I think people will be relatively pleased to hear that I actually do like the Eagles a lot in this game, with the spread. And I think it really is highly dependent on what number you get it at. It's kind of been fluctuating between 3 and 3.5. If you can get it at 3, slam dunk, take the Eagles. It's at 3.5, I'd probably still take it. But that's that half point can be a big deal. It doesn't sound like much, but it can be a big deal. My own personal opinion on this game, I think the Eagles the Giants have been playing people tough. But I think the Eagles are a different team when Miles Sanders plays. When I think that's a really, really, really big deal. Even look at the games that he's played, he's produced. As long as he's on the field and producing, I just think that they're a lot different team. So I really do like the Eagles this week. So if people are out there looking to bet,
I always say I don't like to bet the Eagles, but I've actually multiple times lately picked the Eagles. And one thing outside of the players and the homerism, the Eagles outside of the 3 years with Chip Kelly, the entire Andy Reid era and the Doug Peterson era, I think they've lost like 3 times coming off the bye.
Right.
They always, it's just the Andy Reid mentality and how they coached. And Doug Peterson learned right from Andy Reid. They prepare really well during their bye week, and they always come out. They really need a big, easy win. Also, as an Eagles fan, they need that easy win. They need to jump out to an early lead and actually finish a 4-quarter game. And because it's coming off, if this wasn't coming off a bye, I might not be as confident. But coming off the bye, getting all their injured players back, I think it's a slam dunk that they jump out to that early lead and actually hold it. And if they jump out to an early big lead, like I think, 3.5 points is not hard to hold on to.
No, I agree with that. And I think that's really the key with the Eagles in general. If they can put together a whole football game, as opposed to just coming out blazing and then stinking in the second half, or the other way around. If they can put together a whole football game, I think that they win this game easily. I think that they're definitely the more talented team, especially getting some of these players back from injury. I do like the over in that game as well. The over under is what, 44 and a half, I think, is where it's been hovering.
44 and a half, yeah.
Yeah, so that's I do like that as well. The Eagles defense is not great. The Giants offense is not great either, but this is the type of game I like the over in that game, and I just personal 100% gut feeling on the Eagles this week. I have a feeling that the Eagles are going to come out, and I think they're going to play well. And I don't think that they're going to have a hard time covering the spread at all.
When I first started doing my research for the game, for the show yesterday, the first thing that I always what's the first number that pops in my head? And then I try to do some research, listen to the interviews, look at the numbers, and I try to, adjust it. The first number that stuck in my head is still the number I'm sticking with. And it's a 31-17 win, which covers the over, covers the spread.
Right.
It doesn't cover the over as much as some people would think it would, but I still think that for some reason that number is sitting there and just hanging around, that they jump out and they hold on to it. Because again, like you said, the Giants aren't that good of a team. They're not bad. They've played well at times, but they're not a good team.
Right.
Back, we got another daily fantasy. We anytime anybody has a question, fantasy or gambling, we're talking another topic. You drop it. We'll get right into it. Jason, any tight ends that you're looking at this week?
Yes, I actually have two of them, and they're in the Eagles game. I like Dallas Goedert, and I like Evan Ingram, both of them. I think Ingram's price is way too cheap. $4,300, I think, is his price for this week. I'm going to have him in most of my lineups, but I like Goddard too, to be honest with you.
We got one more question from Matt
I'm not
here.
just saying that either.
What's that?
I'm not even just saying that either.
What up, Josh? Big Bronco win last night?
Absolutely.
Bronco
what's that? Western Michigan.
Taking it way back.
Yeah, he lived next to me our freshman year out in Kalamazoo, baby. With the Western Michigan Broncos with a fake spike. I don't know if you guys saw that. It was a fake spike TD pass to win the game.
Oh.
Dude, I can't tell you. I watched more college football last week because I went with so many of your college football picks than I have in the last 2 years combined. I watched that BYU game for the over. I watched so much college football last week. And what were you, 8-1 last week? Something like that?
8-1, yeah.
What was the game? What was the game that you crushed that nobody had? It was like a 14-point. They were 14
Liberty.
Oh, Liberty money line, baby.
I actually watched some of that game, okay?
Liberty money line, baby.
I took the money line and the points in that game, and I might have lost all my pro gate bets last week, but I won almost every one of my college bets because of you.
Liberty's for real, man. Their coach is Hugh Freeze, who was the coach at Ole Miss, I believe. And he did something sketchy. I don't really remember. He did something sketchy and got fired. Well, Liberty, I guess they don't care if you do sketchy things. So they hired him, and now they're beating everybody.
And they go to the small school to rebuild their reputation. Except for somebody like Larry Brown, who gets fired, then goes to SMU and has that program completely shut down.
Right.
Some of them get fired, rebuild their careers. Others get fired and, make it even worse. So, yeah, there's that. So, do you have any random college picks you want to throw out there to everybody? Because obviously you did really well with them. I know I'm throwing you for a loop here.
Yeah, you're catching me off guard.
Save it for another moment, another tweet there. For the people watching.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going to say is that anybody that wants the college plays for this week, follow me on Twitter.
Dude, I totally forgot to put the banner at the bottom.
There we go. There we go.
I don't know how I forgot to put that up at the start of the show.
Yep. Follow me on Twitter. You'll get all my plays.
Rock.
Yep. You'll get all my plays.
That's where I got all your fantasy, your plays for college, because you posted. I'm like, you know what? What the hell? I'll throw a couple bucks on each game. Why not?
Hey, speaking of Twitter, Scotty, keep your team the way it is right now, the way you have it set. That's what I would do.
Yeah, Scotty. I was gonna say the same thing. Don't mess with it.
What's wrong with Scotty's team now? Did I miss something?
No, he tweeted out a question before, and somebody said you gotta stay tuned for the program. We're not telling you no. So
did I say that? I might have said that. Actually.
You might have,
and I don't even remember now.
So in response to what Johnny just said, Penn State is dead to me right now. They're 100% responsible for my only college loss last Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So
we just talk about Penn State against Nebraska. It might be the worst game of the college football season. Just throwing that out there.
I'm a sucker for parlays. I really am, and I bet every single game you mentioned last week in college, and then I made a smaller bet and parlayed the whole entire card.
Whoa!
And I almost hit that whole entire card against the Penn State game.
Well, that you should be really mad at Penn State right now. Then
I do that every week. I have my pro games. I make my bets, and then I do like a smaller half a bet on a parlay. But that parlay card that was a huge payout. I was sitting there waiting for, and that would be really crushed my hopes last week for a nice payday.
A 9-team parlay would be a nice little payday.
I don't remember what it was, but it was a very large payout and all that. I was, it was very good. But damn Penn State. Yeah, try being a fan. Johnny says, yeah, there's no point in being a fan of Penn State. Sucks.
Or Michigan State or Michigan.
Right.
Of the Big Ten in general. Well, I've been calling Big Ten the toughest, the strongest conference for ages, and. Yeah, it's not working out that way this year.
Hey, listen, in football, maybe not, but basketball, just wait.
Yeah, in basketball. We'll talk some college basketball, because that's the one college sport I can talk.
Yeah. And I'll say this. College basketball is by far my favorite sport to bet on. By far, and it's not even close.
Wow, that's good. We'll have to do a March Madness bracket show, breaking down the bracket on here. How's that sound, guys?
That sounds phenomenal.
That sounds great.
Will that beat the fun I had doing the Masters show on Tuesday?
The three of us might have fun. Nobody else will.
March Madness. Everybody loves March Madness. That suckers people in there. Yeah, Nova. You guys got all your teams. That's the one college sport that we have that's great in Philly, and that is Villanova basketball. Jay Wright, I am so glad Jay Wright stayed at Villanova, because personally I don't think he'd make it well in the pros to begin with. I don't like his style for pro basketball, but he makes Villanova basketball entertaining. So
Mr. Smooth, best students in college basketball.
He has a bigger suit budget than the Eagles do for their entire players. That dude has a brand new suit on every single game.
I know my boy Josh appreciates that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Johnny wants on the bracket show. I don't know. You'll have to prove your worth to get on that bracket show, Johnny.
Depends. Give me some locks this week, and then we can talk about
it. All right. Do you guys have any closing, departing things before we get off the air here? Anything on the Lions this week? Who are the Lions even playing? They're probably not playing.
They're playing the football team.
The Washington football team. That's going to be a dreadful football game, actually. I did. I wrote it down with a question mark, because FanDuel's got it at 4.5 points, the Lions' favor, but they don't even have an over-under listed on their site right now for the game.
You know what I'm thinking about?
They won't post an over-under on it.
Does this not have the makings of Alex Smith throwing 5 touchdown passes all over it? So. Because I feel like it does.
It really does. It's just – I don't even know what the
he doesn't even know.
Based off of that comment on one of the DraftKings free rolls, I may stack Alex Smith on that and Washington on that free roll.
McLaurin, baby.
Just since you said he might throw for 5 touchdowns, I'm going to stack a stack of Alex Smith on a free roll. There you go. I know.
The Lions just have that ability to make the worst quarterback look awesome. So I fear for Alex Smith every time he plays.
Pre-injury was not an awful quarterback. He was one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL.
Agreed.
It just terrifies me to watch him even drop back in the pocket. If you notice, all of his dropbacks are 3-step drops, every single one of them.
And when he's not 3-step back, you could see how fidgety he is back there.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've been over it 100 times. I love the guy. I had the same injury. Heck, playing golf, I get scared, with my leg injury. Just walking across the parking lot at work, I worry about tweaking my leg the wrong way.
Right.
All the metal he's got in his leg, I got the same amount of stuff in my leg. It squeaks from time to time because there's so much metal holding my leg together. But you know what? To see him throw for 5 touchdowns would make my day.
You know what's crazy about that game too? Like, how much do the Washington football team hate Haskins to not play him?
Right.
Yeah. They're risking a guy that's on one leg. He's like a $2 million man or $6 million man, basically, back there. And they're playing him instead. Yeah. I'm surprised Haskins didn't get traded at the trade deadline, honestly.
It's fine. He went to Ohio State, so I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
Adam checking in saying Washington's defense is really good. So Alex Smith is going to throw for 5 touchdowns, and Washington's defense so it's going to be a 41-0 Washington win. You heard it here first. These guys
that would not surprise me.
Well, and it's such a dumpster fire. I was trying to find the spread on my book, and I don't have a spread, an over under. I don't have a money line. I don't have anything. I don't have anything.
That's 0 bets placed. They're both just like, nah.
Let's forget this one here.
Yeah.
That's pretty sad. You guys better. I actually would think you guys are hoping for losses because you probably want Matt Patricia gone. So
100%,
the only way you
100%.
get Matt Patricia gone is to win no more games the rest of the year. I just would feel really bad for Matt Stafford because I do like Matt Stafford.
What you have to realize is that we're now in week what is this, week 9?
10.
10. We're at or past the point in the Lions season every single year where we start rooting for losses. And that's what it's like being a Lions fan. And it's like, so this year we have the whole trying to get people fired thing, but normally it's just like we want a high draft pick so we can take another receiver or a tight end.
I'm going to make that wide receiver.
I was going to say, when's the last time we rooted for the Lions to win? Like, I don't even remember.
How many wide receivers did Matt Millen draft? How many wide receivers did Matt Millen draft for you guys, or whatever his name?
3 in a row.
3 in a row, was it? Yeah.
3. It was 3 in a row.
Who
yeah.
does that? And then has none of them actually last in the NFL.
None of them are good.
Right. None of them.
I couldn't name them all. Charles Johnson was one of them.
Charles Rogers.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only one I can remember.
Roy Williams and Mike Williams.
Roy Williams, Mike,
Gotcha.
And they were all awful.
Yeah, they were
all
although
terrible.
we did get a first-round pick from the Cowboys for Roy Williams, so
yep.
I think it was a first and a third, actually. It's stupid.
Yeah.
You get really good Detroit Lions knowledge on this Eagles Network show. 100%.
You guys want to know what team to not be a fan of? The Detroit Lions. I'll tell you right now.
They're before 2017, Eagles fans would say the same thing about that. But let me tell you something. When you guys get to wear one of these shirts, someday you will, because we said the same thing. Someday you'll get to wear one of these. It will never get old wearing this. Let me just tell you.
Until the last name Ford does not exist, we will not get to see that.
We've only been waiting for 50 years.
We waited. We waited for 52 years before we got ours. So
listen,
it happens.
One playoff win in my life. One. I was 7 years old.
Here's my Detroit knowledge. My first playoff win as an Eagles fan, 1995. Rodney MVP was the quarterback for the Eagles, Detroit Lions own, and he got us our first win that year against the Saints. So,
ironically, a former Lion who turns out to be good after they leave the Lions.
We called him Rodney MVP here in Philly that entire season, and we were awful that year. It was just one of those years like this where we won the division barely. We shouldn't have made the playoffs, and but Rodney MVP. Married to the beautiful Holly Robinson.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
Good for him.
He married up, instead of stepping down, you know what I mean? So, yeah, good old Rodney MVP right there. All right. Well, I think if you guys don't get anything else, we'll wrap this show up. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Really great viewership tonight. Hold on. Matt Millen lives 15 minutes from me. All right. Before we wrap it up, I do have a Matt Millen joke. You guys are older, like me.
Oh, no.
So the original Tecmo Bowl, everybody considers one of the best football video games of all time. I actually like the follow-up, Super Tecmo Bowl, for the Nintendo. There was a glitch in the game. If you played the 49ers defense, you played middle linebacker with Matt Millen, and there's one defensive call, you can literally run directly through the offensive line and sack the quarterback on every single play. I don't remember which play it was on that same defense and run through the lineman on every single play. So until my brothers figured that I had that cheat out, I literally was the 49ers every single game. And I would rack up 60 sacks a game on them, and they had no idea how I was doing it. So,
hey, at least you have a positive Matt Millen memory because we sure don't.
It's a huge positive Matt Millen memory right there. So, yeah. But anyway, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. As always, we appreciate the comments, the shares, everything. Again, I'll do a quick plug here. Hemp Bomb CBD products. Check it out. 20% off if you use AAT Birds. Also, the great beard products that we're now hawking. Beard and Knowledge is the promo code for that stuff. Just signed up with that. Got everybody set up. My beard needs some stuff in it right now. Actually, it's getting a little. It's been a long.
I just trimmed mine, man. You should have told me, man. I wouldn't have trimmed it up.
Well, I was about to trim mine, and then I got an email from these people that they wanted to do a sponsorship. I'm like, guess I can't trim my beard off anymore. The masks with COVID, it like indents my beard, so I kind of want to cut it off.
Right.
Can't do that now. So Live Bearded Products, Hemp Bomb CBD products. Check them out, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. As always, for my co-hosts, Jason Sullivan, Josh Gamble. I'm Phil Stifle. Everybody, thank you. We got one final great show, guys. Thank you. Adam, as always, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate all the viewership and everything so much. I'll see you at the pizza shop this weekend. I'm sure you'll be in for a pizza and wings at some point. Everybody have a great night. And, thanks again, and we'll see you. Let's go Birds, go Lions.